Hello everyone, this is Will from Art of Will coming at you with another video. And this video I will be doing a requested sketch from a friend of mine who's been asking me to do sketch a Gundam. So here it is. And the topic of this video is going to be burnout and how to manage it and avoid it. This topic is also suggested by another friend of mine, and he was wondering, what I do about that. So, what is burnout? The definition of burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So in short, burnouts, they happen because of extended exhaustion, right? And usually because you're just been stressed for too long. This video is going to be my attempt to analyze and understand why burnouts happen and why I personally never get them, or at least not for any extended period of time, right? I mean, I'm sure I've been quote unquote burnt out, but I never feel like it's so bad that I will consider it, I will even give it a name. Like I might feel lazy for a day or two, right? Take a break or something like that. And hopefully by the end of this video, we can find some ways to avoid and maybe manage burnouts. I've heard many stories and know friends who have gotten burnouts, as artists. It's a common thing that happens to artists, I think, especially in the gaming industry or in game studios. Because oftentimes, from what I've seen, game projects are on a much longer production schedule, right? As opposed to like TV shows or, even movies. So if a project is poorly managed or things happen, it oftentimes has a build-up effect, right? Of pushing more and more tasks down the timeline until a certain point. Well, they have to get the whole game done, but as it's nearing the deadline, and suddenly all these people, all these artists only have a few months to do what should have taken a lot longer to do. And then they have that few months becomes a very, very intense crunch time. Another type of artist that I've seen get burnt out very often are freelancers. You'd think freelancers would be, very relaxed, right? Because they get to set their own schedule, but in fact, that's not the case. Because due to the unstable nature of freelance income, uh, if they don't take the jobs being offered to them right away, it's kind of hard to predict when they're going to be offered more work down in the future. Even for very successful freelancers, right? Like you just don't know. So they sort of their mentality becomes, so in order for them to maximize income and ensure future stability, they are forced to take as much as they can handle at any given time, and oftentimes leading to be really, really overloaded with work. If there's any unforeseen circumstances or things that happen, it could blow to their workload even more, leading them to not have any breaks for an extended period of time as they're taking work. Sometimes they might just keep going, right? There might be no end to freelance work, and they might have to just keep taking that work because their mentality has changed. But for students, however, of course, students can still get burnt out. We're all human beings. But I think students should be able to manage it in a way that burnouts are more or less preventable or at least minimized. Since I know there are a lot of students who really care about grades and whatnot, but you realize those are not the important things, right? And those work are not directly tied to their income or livelihood. I'll use myself as an example, right? First of all, I just want to say that throughout my life, I've been pretty good at dealing with stress, right? I generally have a pretty carefree view on life, so I'm sure that that helps in terms of stress management. Also, I would say I'm a bit of a selfish person, in which what I mean by that is I always put my own happiness and well-being as a priority, at least when it comes to, work or school life. So when I had to crunch for school, or even crunch for work sometimes, very rarely I will have to crunch for work. Get to that later. I've never gotten burnt out because to me, the good grades I earn from doing crunch work just isn't worth it. It isn't as important as how I feel mentally and physically. But at the same time, I also have a very high standard for myself and my work, right? So I didn't just like give up on work. I still tried. So those two traits combined sort of made the perfect combo, I would say, to allow me to produce the highest quality of work with the time that I've gotten without me having to go crazy and work myself to death. I was able to manage my crunch time into very, very short and occasional occurrences rather than an extended period of time. I think that is in the end the key to how to manage burnouts. How I imagine burnouts to be is a person being forced to use their mental and physical resources beyond what their natural limit is, right? And obviously, the longer you have to do that, the longer it's going to take to recover. The longer they have to do that, the longer the recover period will have to be to get them back to normal. I think this is a useful way to think about it when you're trying to manage and minimize burnout. Because if you follow this logic, you can also think about it this way. Imagine there's a piece of work you need to do or piece of art you need to do, right? And you have a certain standard of quality that you want to achieve. Now, there's going to be an amount of time attached to that piece of work based off your skill level. And of course, the more experiences you have, the better you'll be able to estimate how long it's going to take. But the point is, no matter what you do, the same amount of time is going to take. That's not going to change. And you recover, let's say, most of your resources every day if you work on things, right? Like, you as a human being just have a certain amount of recovery every single day through sleep or through eating or whatnot. And you have the option to spend a small amount of time and energy over a lot of days to finish this piece of work and allow yourself to kind of fully recharge on a day-to-day basis. Or you spend a huge amount of time and energy in a very short period of time or just a few days, which means that even if you get to manage to fully regenerate your resources every single day, you just have fewer days overall to work on. Therefore, you have overall less resources to work with, right? That which leads you to overextend yourself and use more than what your limit is, oftentimes, right? Uh, Obviously, these two options are, just extremes. You can have any variation in between, and they have different challenges of their own. But in my opinion, one has a significantly higher chance of causing burnout than the other one. And in this case, I would say it's up to you to decide which you think allows you to avoid burnout more, right? Maybe you're the kind of person who likes to crunch and doesn't get burned out through crunch. I don't know. But these are kind of things to think about. And if you were to apply this type of thinking to every job, every task and every piece of work that you do, whether it's for a client or for yourself, I think it's going to help you pace yourself and definitely minimize burnout. And of course, there are times where crunch and burnouts are just going to be unavoidable, right? Especially if you're a working professional artist. And different people will have different levels of stress tolerance and burnout management strategies. But if you find that you're constantly being burnt out without much of a chance to recover properly, and it's really affecting your enjoyment of your work as well as your overall quality of life, then I think it's important to think about it carefully at this time. And maybe, just maybe, more drastic changes are going to be needed to change these circumstances. So to summarize, I would say put your own well-being as a priority as opposed to, like work or anything else that may be causing you to stress and burn out. And try your best to manage your time and resources efficiently so that you can minimize the amount of crunch you're ever going to get. And lastly, if crunch and burnout are a part of your work, and you're really not enjoying it, do think about making some changes in those areas. Yeah, those are some of my thoughts on burnout. Hopefully, you guys get something useful out of this one, as well as, the past ones I've done. And if you have any feedbacks, questions, or topics you want me to cover in the future, definitely, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to suggest any fun ideas you'd like to see me sketch. And I will see you next time.